Good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, okay, it was an echo. Good afternoon, everyone. It's 2 p.m. UK time in London. I can see that we have again people from different countries, which is very cool. Thanks everyone for attending to this new webinar. If you don't know me, my name is Sasha. I'm the account manager at GB & Smith in London. And today we are going to speak about the GDPR regulations within Business Objects and how we can simplify this with 360 Suite. So I'm actually with Patrick Perrier, our EMEA Director, Analytics Center of Excellence here. So say hello, Patrick.
Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. And also great afternoon to our French colleagues in the head office in France joining us today.
Yeah, exactly. So in order to better understand yourselves, we will have some questions during this presentation. And the first one is, do you have personal data affected by GDPR that Business Objects is to access? Just two answers, yes or no.
Yeah, so throughout this webinar, we'll just have a few questions for you. So that way we can shape, our questions and answers and the content. I'll just leave this for a few more seconds. Now, for those of you who have joined this webinar before, you know the usual format. You can see in the GoToWebinar interface, there's a place to enter questions. So we'll have a look at those at the end. And just underneath, you'll see there's a section with handouts. So there's a couple of documents in there today. There's a PDF for quite a good white paper that we have just recently released. And there's also the slides that we are presenting today. They're all available to you. So, right. So thank you for everybody for answering. Let me share the results. Okay, so unsurprisingly, 3/4 of you have mentioned that you do have personal data which is in your Business Objects platform, and it's quite normal because Business Objects is, at the end of the day, a business intelligence enterprise software allowing you to use this data and offer it and present it in a number of different ways to your people. So you can see the screen here. This is just some of the Business Objects BI interface, not even all of them. So from Webby to Crystal to the Lumira Design Studio, dashboarding, mobiles, and so on. So a lot of data available via queries or universes and then sent back to the users, which leads us to the second questions we have for you. And it's and the second question is, let me launch this. Here we go.
So again, yeah, to know more about your actions within Business Objects, we just have this question: which of the following actions do you allow in Business Objects? So it's a multiple options available. Do you schedule reports to destination? Do you allow users to export to local files, send content to Business Objects inboxes, or do you have access to the BI platform from an external location? We will wait 10-15 seconds more.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Sasha. Yes, we'll just leave this for another 10 or few seconds. I can see there's a lot of votes now, so that's great. Okay, excellent. So I'll share the results now. Okay, so a lot of votes and a lot of overwhelming answers. So yes, so like we said before, you have data. This data will now be used in a number of BI tools, and this BI tools is obviously on your Business Objects platform. Now, what is a concern with Business Objects, especially when we talk about regulations such as GDPR, is that the content you have, which is produced by yourself or by the users, will end up being distributed around. And when I look at all the different answers, you are scheduling or bursting content. So that content will leave the Business Objects platform. It will become, a PDF or Excel spreadsheet, for instance. It will end up being saved all over the place, either in some web portals like SharePoint and network share, emailed all over the place. Same thing with the end users. They will take this content, let's say a Webby report, and they may decide to export it locally, again, as an Excel spreadsheet, PDF, or print it. Now, every time you distribute or every time you save locally, this becomes disconnected, unregulated, and ungoverned content. So you may have, a very basic scenario. You may have a user who is totally legitimate, to have access to some personal data. He saves it locally, then who knows who he's sending it to, or it can be emailed to a number of people, and these people may be, at best internal to the company, at worst maybe external, and again, not having permissions. And all these users will use a number of devices, so either the local PC or mobile devices, or an external laptop. So whilst the content is within your platform, you can have a certain amount of control over it, which is very good. But at the end of the day, the content will leave the platform, and this is where we need to we need to be able to answer a number of questions. And it's very basic questions. Do you have personal data, and where is it stored? And are you storing data for the right amount of time? And who had access to it? And who has used this personal data from where, and how has it been distributed? So there's a number of questions that in terms of regulations, once again, such as GDPR, it's important to be able to answer. Or if the answer to those questions are that you have a bit of a problem, it's important to set the right actions, obviously, to become compliant.
So what is 360 Suite? So 360 Suite by GP & Smith, of course, is a set of softwares that enhance business objects. It's 8 modules, and they can help you to do your security, your backup, your audit, or even your regression testing, and of course, your GDPR. Today, it's used by more than 3 million people worldwide. And again, as you will see, that 360 Suite helps you to ensure that business objects supports policies related to governance, risk management, and regulatory compliance. On the next slide, you can see that we developed a 10-step process to help you take appropriate technical and organizational measures to ensure that GDPR requirements are met with regard to business objects. And for that, we have a method. So first, find and tag. So you will find and tag your personal data. Then you will analyze your findings and see where your personal data are used, by who, how they are used. The first step is execute. So you execute several actions in order to backup, flag, clean up, secure. And the last one, you monitor and receive alerts in order to know the evolution over time of your platform.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a good solution in there. This solution leads us to 10 steps, which will help you, to become compliant with GDPR. And the way we've decided to do it is in 4 different categories. And now, if I go with our step number 1 here, and it's very simply backupping. Now, part of the GDPR regulations or principle is that we need to demonstrate the ability to restore personal data in a timely manner. So with business objects, the way it works, unfortunately, is you'll back up the entire system database. You'll back up all of the files stored, and you have a full backup of everything, which is great. Now, if somebody was to delete a report or a folder, or deleted something which is maybe not in the most recent backup, but is in a backup of last week or last month, now it can become time consuming to reach out to IT to get access to everything, and also to restore the content, because you can't just restore the content on top of your existing business objects, because you lose things that have changed since the last backup. So you need to rely on maybe in other environments, which may not be ready for this. So restoring in business objects is quite time consuming and painful. And what we have is a solution we call 360 Plus, and it's really good, because the first time you run your backup, it will just take a copy of everything, every single object in your platform, not only reports and universes, but everything such as users, user groups, permissions, and everything else will be saved on a network share somewhere. And using a very simple web interface, if you need to restore something, you just say, right, I want this object, I want it back. And then you even have an option to get a different history. So if objects have changed over time, we will know about this and we'll offer you the option to restore the most recent object, or maybe it's not appropriate, but restore an older one. So again, for the principle of being able to retrieve content in a timely manner, 360 Plus is the only real solution that will allow you to do this. So once you have your backup, it's time to look at the personal data itself. So what we've done is we created a solution here called 360 Univ. And what you do with this is you select the universe or universes that you want to find your metadata and then tag it to reuse it later on. So very simple solution. It's only one interface. You select the universe and you export the entire metadata in an Excel spreadsheet. Now, what you can do is, well, like I said, find the personal data. You'll find that through most likely the dimension name. Different objects may have different level of sensibility. For instance, a first name, a last name, and an email will not have the same sensibility as a criminal convictions, for instance. And for the same reason, that data will have a different life cycle or different lifespan. So what you can do with our solution is then tag this sensitive data or this personal data and say, right, I'm going to add a few hashtags here in the description of my objects and say, okay, well, first name, it's hashtag personal, it's good for me to know it's there, but it's just a level 1 entry sensibility. Whereas criminal conviction, you may choose to put a different hashtag. It can be anything you like. In this case, a hashtag GDPR sensitive. You may want to add other hashtags, as many as you want, with whichever tag you like, to say, right, well, this data should be available only for 5 years. And what you do is once you have tagged these data, this personal data in the universe, you re-export it back to BusinessObjects, and then you have the ability to do much further analysis. And with the analysis we can do, this is thanks to 360 Eyes. Now this is where you use the power of the metadata. So we extract metadata from a system database, audit database, the file store. We go inside the reports, inside the universes. We extract ton of information, but we also extract what you have flagged or tagged inside 360 Univ. And then we put all of these things together. And then you can ask, right, who's using that data and when's the last time it was used? Which universes have content being tagged? Which reports have this tagged information? Now, that tagged information, was it used by people? Maybe it wasn't. Therefore, is it needed or is it not needed? And again, with access to the metadata and access to the information you have tagged in 360 Univ, you are able to insert all of these questions within one tool, which is web intelligence. So we give you all this data, and then you use or utilize that data inside of your BusinessObjects. So that's really, really powerful. Okay, and the consistency. You will be doing some changes, obviously, over time. Either changes because you have found that there were some problems that needed to be repaired, or just your developers will be updating universes, creating universes, updating the security model, and so on. And this will have an impact on the personal data that users are able to see. So what we have is we have a solution which allows you to see the regression in your reports. So what you could do is, for instance, you could decide to run an extract of some of your reports, which you know contains personal data. And then what you could do is, and I'll come back to that as part of the monitoring and the alerting later, but you could have a way, something that runs automatically in the background to say, right, I want these reports to be compared against this first assessment that I've done earlier, and say, right, if reports turns out that they have data which is different or data which is not following some criteria, I want to be alerted. And this tool here, 360 Bind, will send you alerts if you want, only when the outcome or the output of the latest verification is different. And then you can start, well, therefore, it's an alert, and then you can set some actions to investigate as to why reports which were correctly set or correctly configured are now behaving differently. So again, but consistency is an important factor in this regulation. And with our solution, we can compare the before and the after changes. Now, traceability is very important. We need one of the principles of GDPR is to be able to explain where things are coming from and where they're going to. One important thing, like I said at the beginning, is when content leave the platform through scheduling or report bursting. Now, with BusinessObjects, you can indeed do some normal scheduling. Yes, so you take a report, you want it to refresh every week at 8 a.m. and you want this report to be sent as a PDF to a number of users by their email address. Now, with BusinessObjects, we can tell you, thanks to our metadata tool, that the scheduling worked, the scheduling sent this report to these users. So at least you can keep an eye on this. But what we can't do, and anybody can, it's not possible in any other ways to do it, is to find out what happens when the report has left. Now, what we can do with 360 Cast, which is our scheduling tool, is we can add a number of security options to these objects. So for instance, we can password protect your PDF and your Excel spreadsheet. So at least when they go to destination, if they go to the wrong email address or they're saved in the wrong place, in the wrong folder, at least unauthorized people would not have access to open those files. Now we can also add metadata inside of those documents. So if I take the example of a PDF, when we export it, if you want, we give you the option to add in the metadata of the file itself taggings of your choice. Let's call it GDPR again. So using operating system third-party tools, you could say, right, show me all my objects which have metadata flags, and these PDFs will be highlighted. And finally, this is coming up in our next release. 360 Cast will allow you to put watermarks. So you have a document, it's scheduled, it's sent as a PDF, and then you could have a big watermark across the page, which would read, well, whichever flag you like, private, confidential, GDPR, or something like this. So a lot of options for you that when the document leaves the platform, at least you can put some level of security and governance. Security is obviously very important, ensuring that only the right users have access to the content, but it is not something you just do once. It's quite important to do some account and user access recertification. And what it means is not because a user today deserves to have rights to data that it's going to be the case for forever. And what happens is people change job, people change responsibility. Changes may not be affected in all software that they have access to in a timely manner. So that's obviously a problem. But the other thing is, it's important to keep tracking the security over time, so you remove access to people who are not using it. So if we have a user here called Seb, Seb today has access to some personal data. Throughout your monitoring and your documentation with 360 Eyes, it turns out that Seb in the last 6 months has not used the personal data he has access to. Well, permissions should be removed. And that's again another part of those principles of compliance and GDPR. So so with 360 Eyes, you can do a full investigation of the existing security and existing actions versus that security. So that's really easy. And when you perform the access recertification, then you can use a tool like 360 View, and which we have a patented security matrix to allow you to effectively apply the new security model. And as you can see, it's a screenshot on the right, which is great because you can set permissions and just the way you would in the BusinessObjects interface. But the difference here is you see automatically what the inheritance of the rights will be with the subfolders and the subgroups. So at least you have full control of your well, setting up the permission and the actual effective rights. Step number 8, which is rectify. Now, we need to make sure that changes are permanent, and that means 2 different things here. So the number 1 is there will be a number of times where you'll have to do cleanup. So you want to delete reports, or you need to make sure that WebView reports are purged. You know when people build WebView reports, when they click save and they export or export back to the platform, it's still full of data, and it could be full of personal data. So we have ways as maintenance tasks to say, right, okay, well, every hour, every day, every night, I want all my WebViews to be purged, or I want to delete documents following those different criteria. So I want to archive my instances. So you could have full of instances on your system, full of personal data. You need to keep them perhaps because of other regulations which may supersede GDPR, but you don't want them in your platform because of different reasons, size of backups, performance, risk of people accessing those instances, and so on. Well, we have ways, once again, to help you with those maintenance actions, automate them to make sure that everything is happening behind the scene so that changes are permanent. But the other thing as well is, let's say you delete a report today, tonight there is a backup, and then the next day a report becomes corrupted, or a report is lost, and then somebody says, right, okay, well, I need to restore this object I've done deleted by mistake, or it's corrupted. Now, if you're not careful, you may end up recovering from an older backup you have, because again, taking backups from BusinessObjects is quite a painful thing. So I know a lot of you not taking regular daily backups, for instance. And if you would restore back from a backup, you may restore an object which does not have those repairs and those changes that you have made. Again, because of the problem and limitations in restoring. So again, with our solution here, 360 Plus, the same solution as for the backup I talked at the beginning, because it's easy to restore, you can make sure that you always restore the latest object and not something which may have changed over time, but was not part of your backup. So that's it's quite powerful here. So restoring and maintenance actions. Okay, and the last couple of steps is, once you've done your flagging and your finding, your tagging, your full analysis, and then you've done a number of executions to repair your security model or to delete things which should not be there and so on, well, then you need to keep an eye on everything. And using a number of tools, such as 360 Eyes, you can document constantly your platform so you can give the information to auditors. You can keep monitoring in the background for changes, and especially be alerted. And there's a number of things here. You could say, for instance, right, I want to be alerted every time a schedule of a report has been done to emails outside my company, or I want to be alerted every time a universe has been released to my platform but has not been tagged by anybody. So it could simply be developers not following procedures or people unaware of the procedures. So again, by us having a look or having an eye all the time on your metadata, you have the ability to set a lot of alerts and be notified when there are changes, and then you may decide to approve or disapprove those changes, which is extremely powerful and very important.
Okay, thank you, Patrick, for all of these precisions. So we have another questions. Now you've seen our 10 steps with 360 Suite. Do you think that 360 Suite can help you with your GDPR project? Yes, no, or if you still don't know, you can just give us an answer.
Yeah, thank you for voting as always. Just leave this for another few seconds. GDPR is obviously something which is not new. You have received, I'm sure, a million emails from a lot of different companies and places you have registered over the last few months, especially the last few days. There are tons. It doesn't change the fact that it's an important regulation. It's affecting data, and this is a platform full of data. So, okay, well, I thank everybody for their vote. We'll just close this and share the result. So, yeah, well, it's great to see that some people have seen that this our solutions can help. And for those of you who do not know, I welcome you to get in touch at any time. You will receive an email after this presentation with the recording of it. Our emails will be in there, so please do get in touch so we can help you with some of the different principles or tasks or steps that you need assistance with. So I'll just hide this and back to you, Sasha.
Yeah, thank you, Patrick. So Y360 Suite again, 3 million end users. It's very easy to use. You can save money, you can save time, you can secure everything, maintain a clean, efficient, and secure environment, and have a better understanding of what's going on with your business object platform and, of course, your GDPR. As you can see, and I think as you know, out of the box with business objects, it's very hard to do your GDPR, and some of the principles are clearly impossible without other tools such as 360 Suite. So we have more webinars coming up. So one in May hosted by SAP entitled How to Become a Visualization Guru in Web Intelligence. We have another one in June about the sizing and performance testing within business objects. Another one in July about the versioning in business objects. And in September, we are crowdsourcing, so you can tell us the topic you're interested in. Just send us an email or write something in the chat, and we will try to do a webinar with your ideas.
And Sasha has posted just before the link to register to the next, and he's telling me he didn't. But yes, there is a link in the chat box.
About, I think just you can see that, I think.
Is it only me?
Yeah.
Yes, okay, well, Sasha, before the end of this webinar, will post the link. So you can easily register to the to this next webinar. Excellent. Okay, and another event for those of you in the UK, and if any of you can make it to London tomorrow, we run an event with a partner, one of our partners called Red Olive. So we'll be in central London, and we'll run a similar type of event of today, where we'll talk about GDPR, a lot about the data, obviously, and how not only how our solution can help with this, because that would be the part of business objects, but our partner also will talk about how they work with their own customers to do a full end-to-end business intelligence review of the GDPR project. So that's a great event. It's a bit last minute, but there's a couple of seats available. So please do get in touch with us as soon as possible if you're interested to join tomorrow morning. Oh. Okay, and I did not mean to click on this. Here we go. Perfect. Over to you, Sasha.
Okay, my microphone was off. So we created a community on LinkedIn regarding the Ruby reports. It's called Ruby for Me, as you can see. If you want to take part of these discussions, give or receive tips about how to use Ruby properly, you can just ask to join. I think you can see the link I posted. Okay, great. So Patrick told me he's done. So we still have last question about your BI landscape now. So this is our last one. So which, yeah. Wait a second. Okay, so which BI tools are you using today? Just as information for us. Your microphone is off, Patrick.
We'll just leave this this poll open for a few seconds while everybody is voting. again, for information purposes and for roadmap as well. It's always interesting to know which other tools is used out there. We're obviously quite aware that BusinessObjects is not the only BI tool for some of you. So, okay, that's great. I will we'll close this now and share as always the result. So a bit different today. So we do ask this question every webinar we do, and normally Tableau and Power BI is way up there, but interestingly, Qlik and SAS is quite higher today. So thank you everybody for voting. So well, listen, we're now ready to take your questions. I can see there's a couple already, but thank you for your attention. And if you need any extra assistance, you have an email there. Like I said, we will email you those slides and a link to the recording after this session. So please do not hesitate to get in touch. And okay, I have a question here, Sasha. Shall I read it or you go ahead?
Yeah. Okay. So the question is, if I have eyes, can I do my GDPR projects?
Okay, so that's for existing client of us. Some of you have acquired 360 eyes already, which I guess that would happen. It's our most popular tool. If you have 360 eyes already, you can of course do a lot of your GDPR project. It will help you with documentation. It will help you with monitoring of a few things as well, and the alerting. Without 360 UNIV, which is finding and tagging your data, there's a lot of things which would be quite difficult to do just with 360 eyes. Now, obviously, there's other tools like the backup tools and the scheduling if you need to password protect. So those are other solutions which would be important. But I would say the entry point or the starter pack, if I can call it like this, 360 eyes and 360 UNIV together would be a good solution. So thank you for this. We are almost perfectly on time. 2 minutes past. Are there other final questions before we close this webinar? And I think that's it then. Okay, well, I'd like to thank everybody for joining. And Sasha, want to say a last word?
Yeah, thanks a lot for joining today. And if you have any more questions, feel free to send us an email to me or Patrick. And talk to you in the next webinar, I guess.
All right, everybody, have a good evening. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.